Welcome back to Jimmy Reviews. I am James Michael, and today we are back with some Hoka One action. And for those who follow me on the Instagram, you already know who this is. But for those who don't, this is Uncle Mike. He is a very wise man and has all the answers to this game that we call life. And he is also quite fast when he needs to be. So reviewing one of the newest Hoka racing flags only makes sense. So let's not waste too much time and get to the point of this video. This is our review of the Hoka Evo Rehi. So the upper of the Rehi uses what Hoka calls their matrix upper, which going by that name sounds amazing, but it's not anything too spectacular. It's pretty much an engineered Kevlar mesh that has a bit more of a plastic feel compared to your typical knit or mesh. However, we found it to work well for the purpose of being a minimal upper that gets the job done. It's adaptable enough to fit both our feet, his foot being more of an average sized foot, whereas my foot's a little bit wider. You might notice how the upper is split down the middle with a very soft mesh material that gives the upper just a tad more stretch and added breathability. This mesh goes from the toe box towards the tongue that is attached underneath the actual matrix upper. This creates a sock-like fit within the shoe to give it more of that seamless-like fit. For a racing flat, we think this setup was probably the best upper that Hoka's made. The tongue lays flat without any issues of movement, and the heel of the shoe has just a tad of padding, but it's fairly flexible. Some people who like a more structured heel cup may not like this, but we didn't have any issues with it. And the way the midsole EVA comes up and cups around the heel, it helps with the ride feel a bit more secure. The underfoot cushioning of the Rehi uses Hoka's special Pro-Fly midsole. We found the ride to feel light and cushioned enough for just about any road race distance. Now Hokas are known to be very soft and very plush, or at least in theory. Well, let's just say that this Hoka is the least Hoka feeling Hoka that I've felt in a long time. There is a considerable amount of cushion in the heel, and just a tad of built up foam around the midfoot. The ride itself felt good. Is it responsive? Sure. If you want to go fast, this shoe will not slow you down at all. But the foam in itself didn't give us any of that extra bounce that you may feel in some shoes like the Epic React, the Razor 3, or the Adios 4. It wasn't bad, it just didn't quite have enough to brag about. But for what it's worth, it got the job done. The outsole is just exposed midsole with cutouts throughout the midfoot. The one thing that needs to be said is that the shoe is flexible, and I mean very flexible. With no extra rubber on the shoe, it keeps the shoe as nimble as can be. But because of that, durability probably won't be the best. But the weight of the shoe is very light. It's almost as if you're not wearing a shoe, which is good for racing. Traction wise, it was okay. Good on roads, but horrible on grass. So maybe not the best for a cross-country race flat. When looking at racing flats that Hoka has made in the past, this shoe feels like everything I expected from the Tracer series. And I think it's a better overall shoe, but it also costs a bit more, which for $140 US seems a bit steep. But regardless, we liked this shoe for what it was. As far as things that we didn't like, there wasn't much. We really didn't get any of that wow factor from this shoe. It felt like a really good racing flat, but nothing that I would rush out to my friends to brag about, if I had friends. And while the upper was really breathable, going through even the slightest of wet environments was a mess. Stepping through wet grass for even a few steps left my socks soaked. But that's an easy fix. Don't run through wet grass. The underfoot feel was a bit weird at first because you could feel where the cutouts were underneath the foot in the heel area. We got over it quick, but it was noticeable at first. So yeah, the Rehi is a good racing option. We would say anything from a road mile to a half marathon. And like I said, this is the least Hoka feeling Hoka that we've ever tried. There's no meta rocker, no super plush oversized midsole, but for racing, that's okay. So when it comes to the Hoka Evo Rehi, Uncle Mike and I do approve.
Well done.
Alright guys, this is a new segment. After every review, or most reviews, I want to have a little segment with a person and myself talking about the little things about the shoe, about what we thought about it. For those who want the review's over, so if you don't want the extra stuff, you can click off now. But if you do, here we are. We got Uncle Michael in the house.
What's up?
So Uncle Michael, we just reviewed the Hoka, is it Rehi?
Rehi?
The Rehi?
Rehi.
Well, people would, it doesn't matter.
Took me a while to figure out how to say it.
So what do you think about the shoe overall?
At first, I did feel an interesting sensation on the heel. The heel kind of dips down into like this pocket, and the front is pretty minimal, but it's also got that Hoka cushion that I'm used to.
More so on the heel and the forefoot.
Way less on the forefoot, but definitely you can feel a sensation on the heel that was interesting just to step in to the shoe and just stand in it. But when I got to running, all that kind of disappeared.
To me, the shoe kind of feels like a very fancy version of the Tracer too. So the Tracer was like the racing flat, so to speak.
I feel like the Tracer, yeah, I think that's probably right. I put on a Tracer yesterday, and maybe the Tracer had a little bit more in the forefoot. This had a little bit less. It felt more free, but then again, I mean, this one was super flexible, and I could feel it when I was running. I mean, it had a lot of pop to it, but it was a fast shoe, so.
Yeah, I feel like right now the whole thing is racing flags. You gotta have a carbon plate.
Yeah.
This one does not have the carbon plate. But we do have the carbon rocket, which does.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference of what you prefer, a shoe with carbon plates or just a more natural ride?
I think if I were taking this shoe out, I would take it out for a track day, speed work, tempo run in training. I would race a 10K in this shoe. I might even pull it out for a half marathon.
Okay.
But if I had something stiffer, I'd probably want to use something stiffer as a race day shoe. If that makes sense. So
Gotcha.
I would definitely use this for quick runs, tempo runs, something that doesn't need to put a lot under the feet. But I did like the way that it felt. I did like the Roomy Toe Box, and
surprisingly,
so
it had toe box room for a Hoka. For me, Hokas always fit like narrow on the toes.
Yeah, for sure.
Fine for me. If I had to compare this shoe to some other shoes, I think the New Balance Field Cell Impulse kind of has that nimble, lightweight racing feel. This could be used for training, for like lightweight tempo workouts. The Tracer, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say it's quite as firm or responsive as like the 1400 from New Balance, but kind of not that soft.
Very true, and you could definitely feel the drop distance on, like when. Actually, I'd like to try that out. I wonder what's the drop on this shoe.
I believe it's 4.
Yeah.
4 millimeter. I may be wrong, but
I think the 1400 is what, 8 or something. I got in. That was yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday I went from the Tracer to the 1400. You could totally feel the elevation on the 1400. But yeah, this one was. There's not a lot going on with this.
This whole part here. What do you think about that? Was it necessary? Was it just more of a way to?
Not necessary for my foot, because I have a pretty standard narrow foot, but I understand that if you have a wider foot, this part right here is going to give a little bit to accommodate the space, which would be great, because I remember, racing in something like a Vaporfly and it just being way too narrow and there was not a lot of give. But that was probably one of my favorite parts about this shoe, was this upper. It kind of creased when I put my foot into it. You kind of see it, and it kind of weirded me out a little bit in the beginning. It's like, why is it creasing like that? Didn't know what that was about, but I had no issue with it. That was my favorite part. The upper of this shoe was my favorite part. Very comfortable. I prefer it to most Hokas that I put on.
Yeah, I think this is solid. I mean, it's probably the least Hoka-esque Hoka I've ever tried.
Yeah.
But what about the tread, man? There's wasn't much on here, but for me, it doesn't bother me if the shoe doesn't have a lot of tread on it. Like, it's a racing shoe.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's lightweight. Rubber's gonna weigh it down. People get upset about it, but Nike does it with their Epic React shoes. It's kind of what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Just the price, man. I think it's like $130, $140.
Yeah, that would be my only drawback on putting this up against, even something like a 1400. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's like $90, $100. And
it'd be hard to pick this one over something that I know is tried and true. Maybe doesn't have that sensation in the back, because I didn't get a lot from the back, because I strike on the midfoot or the forefoot, depending on what I'm, how fast I'm going that day. But the price point was the only thing that would probably draw me back on it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of all I really have besides the review itself. So
yeah.
If you guys like these little segments after the video, let us know. We'll keep doing it. If not, we'll cut it off at the review and it'll be what it is. Be sure to stay in school, Don't do drugs. And if you can, keep it tight. Oh, should they follow you on Instagram?
Please do. It's Uncle Mike's Game of Life. I think.
I'll put it right here.
Yeah.
So you can see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing new antics and stuff like that for triathlon and everything under the sun. So
And you are an elite runner.
I'm an elite jogger.
Member at the Now Run Club. Follow us on Instagram at MB Run Club. Jameson Runs. Uncle Michael Life Game of Life.
Uncle Mike's Game of Life.
Whatever. I'll see you guys later. Keep it tight.